the internet. Now, there are tons of different diets that we might not cover, but like I said, if you have a question about something, I would rather just answer it, especially if it's something that you're planning to undertake. And again, I'll help you look at it sort of two different ways. One from the way they promote it, and the other one from a health perspective. So when I talk about a lot of these, one of the things that I always say, and I love the saying, it's been a favorite of mine for years, is don't do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. If something isn't working for you, all of a sudden, because you do it again, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work this time. And I have a quick story to share on that. So I was a weight loss coach for about 30 years, and I actually ran one of the major weight loss companies. I created, I'm going to be telling you about that in a few minutes, but I created their coach training. So I trained the coaches to be coaches. But I also, in my own center, when I was a manager of a center, I would also see clients. And so a lot of times when I was selling a weight loss program, because you'd have to come into the center and there's a presentation and you either decide you want to do it or you don't. And I'd be sitting down with a potential client and I would explain the program and they sound very interested. Then they get to the end and, everybody wants you to convince them that this is the best thing for them. Not really that you should convince them, but they need to convince themselves. And so I would always get this at the end after I present the price of the program, which was about $1,500 or $1,600. And you had to buy food. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, the food thing. But one lady said to me one day, she said, well, I don't think I need to do this, Sandra, because I'm a lifetime Weight Watchers member. And I said, that's awesome. How long have you been a lifetime Weight Watchers member? And she said, about 25 years. And I had to just kind of bite my tongue. And I said, so if you're a lifetime Weight Watchers member and you don't think this will work for you, how is Weight Watchers working for you? If you're still a lifetime member and you're here trying to lose 30 pounds, that tells me that's not working for you. And she just kind of said, well, I guess you're right. And she signed up. So, the point is that I wanted to break these down so you can see the pros and cons from a weight loss perspective, but also from a health perspective. And if you're looking to lose some weight, are you looking to just lose some weight? Or are you also looking to be healthy? Because sometimes these programs don't put those two things together. So that's why I wanted to break them down. So speaking of Weight Watchers, number one on the list of the top 10 that's in the article I dropped you is Weight Watchers. So let's look at, the pros and cons. Weight Watchers has a points-based system. They give everything points. They have a section of free foods. And their main motto, and this is where, you gotta wonder why Oprah Winfrey has never really been successful for any length of time. I mean, she loves food. Let's face it, she'll admit that to you. But the thing is that if no food is off limits, how healthy is that diet and how is it helping you to change a habit? Like one of the things that she says is, I can still eat bread. And I'm thinking, well, that's great. If you want to eat bread, I mean, that's great. So the question is, if it's still a food that's on your program and you're able to eat it in moderation because there's points, that can be great. But if you're looking from a health standpoint or a diabetes standpoint, that food shouldn't be on the list at all because that stuff is loaded with chemicals and bread is not food. So it would work if you wanted to eat certain things and that were your goal. I just want to eat the things I like and I want to lose some weight. Weight Watchers is a great program. But if you're thinking about things from a health perspective, bread is not a healthful food. So again, how do you want to look at that from a health perspective or from a weight loss perspective? And if you have any health conditions like diabetes, or like me, I am severely insulin resistant. I can't eat any of that stuff. I haven't been eating that for years just because it doesn't make me feel good. I feel horrible, and why would I do stuff that makes me feel horrible? So that's where you've got to say, you know, well, if I could eat all my points in chocolate cake, is that a healthy diet? And the answer is not really. And it doesn't really help change habits, because if in my mind I'm saying, well, it's okay to eat cake as long as it's within my points, there's more to weight loss than just that, right? There's more to weight loss than just calories in, calories out. There's more to weight loss than proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. There's just a lot more to it. It's not that simple. But yeah, so very true, she says. And yes, it is. So again, if you look at it, can it be simple? Sure. They give you a list of food and they say, have at it, just stay within your points, and this is free food. But again, you know, what happens, the reason why there's lifetime members and Weight Watchers is because they never learn to eat healthy. And then Weight Watchers also has products. So if you're eating their products, they're all portion controlled and everything's perfect until you stop eating the products. And I'm going to get to a lot more of those programs because I ran a few of them, so I can tell you. So number 2 coming up on the list is Jenny Craig. I was a Jenny Craig counselor for a year and a half. So I know the program. I couldn't eat the food because most of the food had carbohydrates and I don't eat that. And so, you know, I tried a few of their things, but again, so now you've got a program, you've got coaching, and I'm going to tell you something. Jenny Craig has some of the best coaches in the business. If you walk into one of their brick and mortar centers, I think their online coaches are probably very good. So Jenny Craig has benefits because their coaching program is good, but I'm going to put a but in there. They have some good coaches. I'm an excellent coach, and I was able to help people with their mindset, regardless of whether or not they wanted to eat the food. But the point is, they want you to eat their food. And so you're tied to eating their food, which the good part of that is that it's portion controlled. So you're getting the right portions. It's macro controlled, meaning protein, fat, and carbs are in a special balance. So in that sense, everything's in a neat little package for you, but the food is very expensive. You're not cooking it. And so it makes it more difficult when you're sick of the food, because it's okay. It's not horrible. It's not fabulous. And most people like it. But here's another issue that I personally find with Jenny Craig. Jenny Craig allows you a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner, and 2 snacks. Guess where that comes from? Jenny Craig food. So 5 times every meal and snack you eat is Jenny Craig food. And that's where they get you with that. So the coaching part of that, excellent program. But again, 5 meals a day, or 5, you're eating 5 times, and all 5 of them have to be their food, because if you wing it and you go out of balance, the weight loss can stop. So again, very costly. I wouldn't be surprised now if it's over $100 for, you know, for a week's worth of food. It's probably even more than that. It's very expensive. So that's another drawback. So why do I not like the breakfast, lunch, dinner, and 2 snacks thing? Because most of the programs I'm going to talk to you about tonight do exactly that. It's a breakfast, it's a snack, it's a lunch, it's a snack, it's a dinner, it's a dessert. It's like, wait a minute, stop the insanity. Why is that a bad idea to do that? I'm going to tell you right now. Because first of all, you shouldn't have to eat every 2 to 3 hours. If you eat the right foods at the right time, you should be able to last between 4 and maybe almost 5 hours if you've got good blood sugar control. If you're diabetic or like me, insulin resistant, yeah, that ain't gonna happen most of the time. You're pushing it at 4 hours, but 4 hours is great. So with 4 hours, I should only need a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner. And maybe something somewhere around there. And I'll talk about my little rule for that in case you missed it. But here's the problem with a breakfast snack, lunch snack, dinner snack problem, especially from somebody who's insulin resistant, right? It's the worst thing we could possibly do. It creates hunger. And the way that it creates hunger is every time you eat, your insulin raises, right? Because it has to pull in the sugars of that meal. So now if I eat something, say I'm just going to use oatmeal. I know so many people who eat oatmeal for breakfast. Oatmeal would last me about 20 minutes and I need to eat again. It just doesn't work for me, and I don't eat grains. But if I was, I didn't last, honestly, more than an hour, and I was hungry again. Now, I was working at a job. I can't leave my job and go have a meal, so I was miserable for 3.5 hours until I could go have my lunch. And, I quickly realized that that type of situation doesn't work for me, and it's stupid because I keep raising my blood sugar. So every time you raise your blood sugar, then after a period of time, your blood sugar drops. When your blood sugar drops, it causes hunger and headaches, and you get that hangry feeling. Now you want a snack. That's like a 5-letter word that I don't do. I'm not a snack person, but I can tell you how to manage a nice little treat here and there to keep your blood sugar stable. So what you're seeing here is that breakfast, lunch, with the snacks in between is like a roller coaster ride for your blood glucose. If you're a diabetic or have anything like that, hypoglycemia, anything like that, and you'll say, oh, I have to have something, it's because you're creating the need for it. And that's not a good strategy. So that's why anything that has breakfast snack, lunch snack, that's a down for me. That's a drawback. So Jenny Craig is one of the programs that could work for a while, short term. If you wanted to do something like a Jenny Craig or a Nutrisystem, you got to remember that food is not whole food. There's lots of preservatives. There's lots of salt. And when you start cooking for yourself, if you've never learned to portion your meals, you're going to be overeating again and back in the same boat. So a portion is what most people don't even understand. An actual portion of protein is 3 ounces for a woman and 4 ounces for a man. The size of my cell phone is about 5 ounces. So you're looking at like, my camera's backwards. Let me go that way. All right. So on the side of the actual camera, that's literally a 3-ounce portion is like this much protein. And 4 ounces isn't a whole lot bigger, but that's a portion. So if you eat more than 3 ounces for a woman and 4 for a man, you're now eating more than 1 portion of protein. So that's where things go wrong, because people are not counting that as more than 1 portion, and then they're getting more calories and maybe even more protein than they need. And I'm going to save that conversation for the end. So that was Jenny Craig. So number 3 is the Mayo Clinic. Now the Mayo Clinic has a bunch of different types of diets, but on the regular, you're looking at maybe 12 to 1,400 calories, depending on the type of program you're on. They have one that's for weight loss. They also have something called the DASH diet, and it stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. Everything in that diet is low sodium, of course. So it's low sodium, tons of vegetables, carbohydrates, a little bit of protein, and virtually no fat. You already lost me with that one. And you'll see why when we get ahead a little bit. So the Mayo Clinic does have a healthy diet, if you want to call it that. But a healthy diet for me might not be a healthy diet for you. So this can work for some people. They do say refrain from snacking. That's one of their tips. But in the same tone, they'll say refrain from snacking, but breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack. So in essence, you are still snacking. You're still raising your blood sugar, and carbohydrates are a crappy source of fuel. They don't last long. Fat is the best source of fuel, and burning it and using it, that's always the best. So with that, they also allow for corn and potato. And those are really starchy vegetables. Now, most of the healthier programs will say, we used to call it at Medifast, which I will get to in a minute, lean and green. It was a protein and a lean protein and a vegetable that was not corn or potatoes or carrots or peas. It was stuff that doesn't raise your blood sugar. So that's what really bugs me about the Mayo Clinic. But again, you got to remember, where do those recommendations come from? The USDA, who still puts value on carbohydrates over proteins and fats. So the old food pyramid, if you noticed, it was 6 to 11 servings of grains. 6 to 11. Now, if you're a pig, and I don't mean like a pig like you're a pig, I mean like if you're an oink oink pig, and I want to fatten you up, you want to know the thing that I give you? I give you corn, and then I fatten you up, and then I cook you and make you into bacon. That's what they do. They give those animals corn because it fattens them up. The other thing about corn on a diet that people don't realize, they might like it, it's a GMO food. That stuff is high GMO. There's very little corn grown today that is not GMO. I challenge you to go out and find a non-GMO organic ear of corn. It's really tough. And then potatoes have a place. I'm not going to down potatoes because they definitely have a place, but they have a very high glycemic index. Matter of fact, potatoes have a glycemic index. That's the amount of that something will raise your blood sugar, almost as much as table sugar. So I know it's a bummer. But, there are ways to enjoy them, but just not eating a whole potato, because that's really a high glycemic food, will raise your blood sugar like crazy. So that's the thing about the Mayo Clinic's programs that I don't like. They're still talking about, a meal and a snack and a meal and a snack. And personally, there's no really good science behind that theory whatsoever. When a human being came out of the cave, the sun was out, they scratched their head, they're thinking, what am I going to eat today? And they might have to work 3 hours to find it. They didn't walk out, pick up a bowl of cereal, throw some milk on it, and start eating. It didn't happen that way. We were meant to tap into our own body fat for hours at a time. And that's a good thing. It's a good way to work. It's a survival mechanism, but it's the best fuel source you'll ever have, is your own body fat. And the reason why when people are eating really healthy, and I'm going to get to some of those diets too, like vegan and that, is that they're eating in excess of what their body can use from a carbohydrate standpoint, and that's never going to work either. And you're always going to be hungry. So that's a drawback with that. So number 4 on that list is the Atkins Diet. Now, back in 1990, I'm going to say 97, I was training clients a lot. I had a lot of clients, and all of a sudden they started coming in and, Sandra, have you tried the Atkins Diet? Do you know what it is? And you know something? I'm always one to take one for the team. I am never going to tell you to try something unless I've tried it before. And then I'm going to give you my opinion of it. And if you want to still do it, then that's your choice. You still do it. But I'm always going to kind of give you my take on it, what I thought, what my feelings are. So I bought the book, dug in, read the whole book, and I thought that's when I was having some gut health challenges. And just to try it so I could tell my clients what it was like, changed my life. Now, remember, Atkins back then was talking a lot about bacon and cheese and all of that stuff. And I had given up those foods because I was eating the pyramid diet where the, 6 to 11 servings of grains, because that's what we were taught, and couldn't get below a certain weight to save my life. But my saving grace was that I was exercising for about 4.5 hours a day. So I was burning it, but I still didn't feel good and I still didn't feel right. But when I undertook the Atkins diet, I just didn't want to be eating so much cheese because I thought dairy was a problem for me and I didn't want to eat so much bacon. So I started to scale away those things and eat sort of more of the healthier proteins, but I was a high protein person. I didn't know you weren't supposed to have that much protein. So my point is, the Atkins diet can be a good diet if you stick to the true Atkins diet and don't buy products off the shelf. That's the biggest mistake, because first of all, they're all promoting Atkins, 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 but if you eat a couple of those a day, there is no way you're going to be in ketosis. There's no way. Now, the Atkins diet had phases. It was an induction phase where you go really, really, really low. They call it a VLCD, a very low carbohydrate diet. VLCD is categorized by 20 to 25% of your daily calories comes from carbohydrates. So that's a very low amount, considering the average American diet is probably 60% carbohydrate. So 20 to 25% is really low, and most people cannot stick to that type of thing because it's so low that you literally have very little opportunities outside of the meat and the vegetables, or at least that's what a lot of people thought. So if you're looking at an Atkins diet, the one that they did in the clinic was completely different than the products they have now. And, when he died, he definitely sold out. I mean, he just said, sure, sell products and put my name on them. And, that's what they're doing right now. But those products are not healthy, and they're not really a true keto diet product. So let's talk about, even though it's not on the list, the most popular diet on the planet is the keto diet. Everybody now. I mean, when I started keto, it was shortly after Atkins because I was doing it the wrong way and I was eating too much protein. So let me go back for a second to make some sense of this, okay? And I don't see any questions yet, but you guys can certainly ask them if you have them. When I first started Atkins, I did the induction phase, which is only 20 to 25% of the calories came from carbohydrate, which was literally the vegetables, and that was it. When you move up and you're at 25 to 50 grams of carbohydrate a day, that's an LCD, or a low carbohydrate diet. 25 to 50 grams is low. It's definitely lower than 60% of calories. So it's lower than the standard American diet. And it's a really nice place to stay. The point is, if you can't go keto and you don't want to eat conventional, you'll find a nice sweet spot at 40 to 45 grams, keep your blood sugar low, and you'll probably lose weight over time because it's a very healthy range. It's the range that a caveman might find themselves in, or not. They might be in the very low, but it's not a lot of carbohydrate, and you still get a little room to play. You can have a little fruit here or there, stuff like that, but it's not quite so strict. So that was like the next phase of Atkins. So after you went strict for a while, you went to the next phase, which was 25 to 50 grams. That's a really sweet spot for most people. Now, if I put myself in the picture, 50 is a little too much for me. I'm insulin resistant. I don't do well with carbs. So I stay kind of at the 25 to 35, maybe 40 gram place. Sometimes I'll go keto for weeks at a time. Most of the time, I just stay around 30 or 35 grams. That's a sweet spot for me. I can go 4 to 5 hours without a meal. I don't have to eat because I'm not starving. I don't really lose a ton of weight unless I really exercise because I'm in my desk all day. But it's a nice place to be. It does allow for a little bit of leniency. So I just wanted to bring that up. But a true keto diet is not a high protein diet. That's where people go wrong. So what's so bad about protein? Well, first of all, now that we're in that subject, I'm going to bring that up before I go to some of the other programs. Protein is great, and everybody needs a certain amount of it. As a matter of fact, you need about 0.8 grams per kilogram of your body weight, or to make it simple, 1 pound per, 1 gram per pound. The other way is actually more accurate, the 0.8 grams per kilogram, but you got to take your body weight divided by 2.2 and then times that by the 0.8. And so you get a little bit more if you exercise, but usually 1 gram per pound. But when you get to be older, you don't need quite as much protein because most people don't have quite as much muscle. So when I was getting 100 grams of protein a day, I was exercising like crazy. But now I only need about 65 grams of protein. And when you say that to people, they're like, oh, that's way too low. No, it's not. It's not too low. And I have to keep myself from eating too much protein because it's an easy thing for me to eat. It's just easy. It's something I will eat. And it's usually readily available. So, higher protein diets are very dangerous for lots of reasons. One, for your kidneys, you will overtax your kidneys. And your body can only use that 1 gram per pound. So look at these bodybuilders who are dousing, shake after shake, these things, 20, 30, 40 grams of protein in every shake. 6 and 8 ounce steaks, they're getting like 160, 180 grams of protein a day. And I'd be surprised if their kidneys didn't shut down, but they would insist to you, no, you need that protein to build muscle. No, you don't. No, you don't. You only need what you need. The rest of it is all in the activity that they do. So even if they stopped eating all of that protein, they would still have the same result. But, you can't tell a bodybuilder that. They don't listen to that. Trust me, I've tried. They don't. They say to me, Sandra, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay, if you say so. But it's the truth. That's all your body can handle. And then the excess turns into ammonia. And then you start getting gray hair and all kinds of crazy stuff. And you age your kidneys. So not a good thing. So Atkins, again, foods are good. Products are not so good. And I'm a keto coach. So if anybody ever wants to go keto, hit me up and I'll get you on the right track. It's a great diet. There's so many benefits. They actually have a drink that you can drink. And in 30 minutes to 45 minutes, boom, you are in ketosis and it doesn't matter what you eat. I didn't believe that when I was first told that. And now that's my little treat every once in a while. I will actually drink one and I can go 6 hours and I don't even need to touch food. My brain is on fire. I'm ready to go. It's great. I love it. It's like a nice little hack. But the next one on the list is Noom. Now I've been seeing Noom a lot. And my daughter used the app for a while. Now, my daughter wanted something to track calories and help her stay on track. And she said, basically, she goes, this lifestyle support and cognitive behavior crap is not for me. So I just had to laugh because that's what I do for a living, right? I coach on lifestyle and behavior changes. So to have that kind of accountability can be helpful for a lot of people. I've obviously not used the Noom app because I don't need anybody telling me what I need to do. I know what I need to do and I do it. So, but I think that might be a good option for people regardless. And I do think they might have a plan that's in there. So they're giving you some kind of a plan. I don't know exactly what the plan is. And I was trying to get a hold of my daughter for her to tell me, and she just called me like 2 minutes ago. So she's a little too late. But I know that they have a plan in there and they try to get you on the right track. But there is some cognitive behavioral support in that, because it's what you're doing while you're changing your eating habits that's the most important thing. So that's noon. Number 6, I'm going to group these all together because they're all very similar. So the first one would be HMR. The second one would be Medifast. I know everything about Medifast. Like I said, I taught the program for 7 years, and it was a great program. And the thing with those different types of programs, there's probably another one, I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but they have their own food, and they're typically shakes, they're oatmeal. Now, some of them will let you eat your own food and maybe 3 shakes a day or something to that nature. I am never going to say that's a terrible idea. I'm not, because honestly, I could count thousands of pounds I've helped people lose with those programs. But the food is not healthy. The additives are ridiculous. There's acesulfame K and all kinds of artificial sweeteners in the products. You get bored as heck with the food. Like Medifast had soups. There were shakes that I used to drink a couple times a day because I would be so busy with clients, I didn't have time to eat the food I brought. So unfortunately, I did drink those shakes. But then my thyroid whacked out because of the soy, because they were soy-based. So again, you got to be careful with that kind of stuff. If you're going to have a shake, go buy a healthy shake. Make your own shake, almond milk, whatever you like, oat milk or coconut milk. I always do a mix of coconut milk and almond milk. I use a vegan protein shake because I can't do whey, but if you can find a clean whey protein, just make your own shake. You can put a couple things in there and have a really nice breakfast. And I love shakes. I'm a big fan of them. I just don't like them prepackaged because of everything that's in there. So HMR, Medifast now is Optavia, or they're not even, we don't even have brick and mortar, they don't even have brick and mortar centers anymore. They're pretty much online. There's only a few centers in Phoenix, Arizona, and a few in California. The franchise centers are still running, but Medifast doesn't have centers. The thing that they did have was they had people who knew how to get you through the process. And there's value in that. The coaching piece of that was critical. Even if people weren't on the program, they weren't eating the food, they would come in and sit with us as coaches because we were helping them manage whatever it was they were doing. So that's what I have to say about those. And number 7 came up as, and I don't know why this is even on the list, the Biggest Loser diet, which is probably completely similar to the Mayo Clinic or a lot of those other diets. It's typically 12 to 1,500 calories. It's 3 meals and 2 snacks. You already know my feeling about that. And it's a frequent eating because they're saying you need that fuel if you're going to exercise and your trainer is going to beat you into oblivion. But again, not a fan of the 5 meal a day kind of thing. And here's where I'll talk about what does work if you haven't already gotten my little Max the Burn cheat sheet. But this is my theory on that. If you're going to raise your blood sugar at all, do it around mealtime and not in between meals. Because if I'm having a protein and a vegetable, and I wanted to have a little fruit, and I have it with my meal, I'm going to get a slower rate of absorption of glucose in my system because I've got the protein and the fat, right? So you don't uptake that glucose quite as quickly because your body's still utilizing other things. So you don't get that crazy glucose spike. Like if you just had a Belvita biscuit in the morning, your blood sugar is going to be through the roof. And then you crash and you're hungry again. And you're like, oh, hitting the vending machine or the refrigerator if you're home, looking for something. So that is just really not a good strategy. But 30 minutes before or 30 minutes after your meal, you're going to metabolize and digest all of that stuff at the same time. So it's a much better way to do it. So if I want a handful of nuts, I'm going to eat that handful of nuts within 30 minutes of my dinner, before or after. And there's not a whole lot of carbs in nuts, but depending. So, you know, when people eat dessert right after the meal, that's probably the best time to eat it. Not that I'm not a fan of dessert. I believe in meals. I don't believe in dessert. But if you're going to have a dessert, that really is the best time to have it, is right after the meal or right with the meal, because again, it's all digesting at the same time. And when it comes to desserts or snacks or whatever you want to call those, things that you eat when it's not a meal, those are things too that we want to make sure that if you're trying to watch your weight and curb your hunger, that they are not carbohydrate based. So if you're having a piece of fruit, a fibrous piece of fruit would be a good idea, like, or something like, you know, a half a grapefruit or a half a banana with peanut butter or something like that, something that's going to slow that carbohydrate going into your system. And again, trying not to have it in between. That's where a lot of people get stuck, is they don't bring their snacks. If they snack, they don't bring stuff with them, and then they get stuck out and they're not prepared. And then it's, you know, kind of all bets are off. At that point, you're going to eat whatever you want if you're hungry, or whatever is available to you. So number 8 was volumetrics, another program I actually worked with in the late 80s and early, I think it was the early 90s. And the volumetrics program is based on fiber. So you're filling up with very fibrous vegetables and grains, hoping to quell hunger. Now, I am a huge fan of fiber, but with volumetrics, they're saying you should be eating that fiber with grains. So let's talk about what those foods would be, because a lot of people have problems with them. Beans, quinoa would work, wheat, rice, whole long grain rice, what's the word I want? Wild rice, rices. So they're providing a list of foods that do have significant fiber. If you add that to vegetables like broccoli or asparagus or whatever, the reason it's called volumetrics is because the volume of the meal that you have is significant and will keep you full longer, because fiber will slow down the movement of glucose through your digestive tract. So the strategy is really good. But in my mind, again, I don't eat grains, and it's difficult for some people to work with beans. If you can work with the beans and they don't cause you a problem, you know what problem I'm talking about, then that's great. But if they cause you belly problems and gas and bloating and all that stuff, that's not going to be a good solution for you. And if you have any autoimmune challenges, stay the heck away from a volumetrics diet, because you'll probably get sicker. And there's a lot of reasons for that. There are things in beans called lectins, and they don't really work well with the digestion of a lot of people. I can have a little bit of beans myself, but I couldn't eat them every day. It just doesn't work for me. They don't sit well for me. So that is a good strategy. But again, you know, the fact that you're eating vegetables, fruits, carbohydrates, grains, hungry. So you are always going to be challenged with that hunger. And that can be difficult. Now, number 9 is going to take me all of about 30 seconds. And number 9 on the list is Slim Fast. Period. Don't do it. There we go. That was the end of that. Bad idea. It's just a bad idea. It's not food. It's a bunch of chemicals in a carton or a can or whatever. Like I said, if you're going to do shakes, make yourself a nice shake. I wasn't a fan of avocados for the longest time. I literally just started eating them 6 or 7 years ago. But I take an avocado, put it in my shake, not a whole one, but like a third or a half, in my shake, I get potassium, I get fiber. Sometimes I'll add fiber to my shake. And I love acacia fiber because it mixes right in and you don't even taste it. Some people like the chia seed or the hemp seed, but I don't like that stuff in my liquid. I eat it as cereal, but I don't put it in my shake. But there's lots of ways. Berries will add fiber. So you can get some good fiber in a shake just by adding a few things, and you don't have to resort to the Slim Fast stuff, which is nothing but chemicals. So number 10 is called DECON. Now the DECON is very, very new diet. Some doctor with the name of DECON came up with this, and here's his strategy. This just goes to show you what they teach doctors. It's protein, vegetables, and fruit. And you can eat as much as you want. So what's the matter with that strategy? I know people who they are literally 100% carnivore. They don't even eat vegetables. I feel like that is a very, very risky practice. Very, very risky. Because of what I said about protein, we only need a certain amount, and anything else turns into ammonia. And then your kidneys have to work hard, right? So that's just not a very smart strategy or very responsible for someone who's a doctor. But I know people who, there are actually Facebook groups, I can't think of the name of them, but they are literally only meat eaters. Do they lose weight? Yep, like crazy. But honestly, the risk is not worth the benefits. Fats are your friend when it comes to diets, and that's what people don't understand. I mean, we were taught low fat, low fat, low fat, low fat for decades. And I actually have charts where I can show you that when the food pyramid changed in the 80s and we had the 6 to 11 servings of vegetables and grains, or mostly it was grains, it was bread, cereals, rices, that kind of thing, it wasn't vegetables. But when that began in the 80s, you began to see this slow and steady increase of obesity and diabetes. And I'm going to tell you real quick how that happened. Now, I don't have a lot of time just because I'm getting on another call with Tom, and I'm going to drop that link in case you guys want to jump on to the Scalar Light call, where we're going to start talking about physics and really cool stuff like anti-gravity platforms. But to finish this conversation, I guess the government back in the early to mid 70s, they had a couple of scientists and researchers and doctors that they respected. And one of them, his name was Ansel Keys. Now, I don't know if he was paying somebody, but they just loved this guy, and everything he said, they hung on every word. It was between him and another scientist to devise the American diet and what's healthy. And here's what happened. Ansel Keys said, I'm using my data. My data shows that fats and cholesterol harm your health, and we need to remove these. And I think the pyramid should have 6 to 11 servings of grains. And that's the pyramid that we all grew up with, right? And this other doctor, who's, I don't even know his name. He was like a nobody now because everybody knows Ansel Keys. But this guy said, that's not true. You're not looking at the big picture. You're just vilifying fat and protein, and you're not looking at some of the other aspects of what this person was doing or not doing, and you can't be sure that that's what the problem was. I tend to think that fats and protein are not the problem. I think carbohydrates are the problem. And so the problem was that the government listened to Ansel Keys. And that's how we ended up with, the food pyramid the way that it was and all the problems. And we've had a steady increase of cardiovascular deaths and cholesterol problems. Cholesterol is necessary. You need it. It's not bad at all. Some of the best blood work I ever had when I was drinking bacon grease in my salad dressing. So don't let anybody tell you, because that's BS. It's just BS. It's not cholesterol or fats that cause you any problem. As a matter of fact, saturated fat is healthier than non-saturated fat. And why is that? This is a lesson you won't learn in school. Because saturated fats, beef tallow, beef fat, skin off a chicken, does not oxidize. And what causes heart disease and cholesterol problems? Or there's no problems with cholesterol, it's where the fat comes from. But one of the biggest things is the oxidization of the LDL, the low density lipoproteins. When that oxidizes, that's when you have a problem. Well, saturated fats don't oxidize. They don't. So they don't cause a problem. But your canola oil, your safflower oils, all of those heart-healthy oils they try to get you to buy on TV, Mazola and whatnot, all that highly processed refined oil is deadly. And that's a lot of the stuff that's in some of these shakes. Canola oil, they put canola oil in everything. So it just goes to show you, I mean, I can, some one of these days, if you guys ever want to see it, I'll show you the difference between my lab work. My doctor has never seen lab work like that ever. I had not one bit of inflammation, and I was literally putting bacon grease in my salad dressing every day. It was bacon grease, olive oil, spices, and apple cider vinegar. I was eating lamb chops for breakfast. I was eating butter off the spoon, and my health improved. And I lost another 10 pounds and never felt better in my life. So, you know, you just have to be careful, because the cherry picking that was done in those studies, it served to ruin the health of Americans. It was very, very, very sad. I just dropped in there the link for the call for Tom Palladino at 8 o'clock, the scalar researcher. We're going to be talking about Viktor Grebennikov and a flying platform made from insect wings. Really cool stuff. But I'm going to open it up for about just a few minutes to see if you guys have any questions about a diet that I didn't mention, because paleo is definitely still a wonderful diet. Are there any questions that you might have at all about health or diet in general? I would be happy to answer those for you while we're here, because we do still have a few minutes. But those 10 are in the article I gave you, but there's definitely more. There's more diets than that. When I was a teenager, I was on diets. Why would Weight Watchers have worked earlier in your life and not later? Well, that's a good question, because I don't know your life. It's obviously as we get older. So the reason why they tell you that strength exercise is better than cardio, it's because you build muscle. For every bit of muscle, I don't have any muscle anymore, but for every bit of muscle you have, you burn 3 times as many calories. Fat doesn't burn calories, really. It is calories, but it doesn't really burn calories. So you might have been younger. That's a possibility. They still worked off a point system. Now, just because they work off a point system and allow chocolate cake, usually when people first start a diet, they want to be good, right? And they don't eat those things. Later down the road, they start to flex a little bit and they go, well, I'm allowed to have, 10, 20 gummy bears. And the way that your body works is fat makes estrogen and estrogen makes fat. That's one factor. Today, we have so many chemicals in the environment, and we've been told to eat all these carbohydrates as well, that we've created more fat. And that fat literally makes more fat. We end up in an estrogen imbalance. So it really depends on, when you were following the diet, were you younger and had more muscle because you were burning more calories overall just breathing? And now one of the toughest things is to know how many calories to eat. Now, when I shared with you 12 to 1,500 calories on most of these diets, right? If I were to go on the internet and decide I wanted to lose some weight, and I followed a 12 to 1,500 calorie diet, Yeah, I'd probably put on about 6 pounds in about 6 weeks. That is way too many calories for me. And I know that because I have a formula that helps me figure out what I should weigh. I literally only burn about 1,000 calories a day. Even when I was exercising, I burned about 1,400. So, you know, I only eat now about 1,150 to 1,200. Now, some days I go up to 1,400, not most days, but some days. I really do try to stay at that calorie level. It's low. It's not fun. But the only way for me to be able to eat more calories is to make more muscle, which I'm still working on. Again, used to be very muscular and now I'm not. So it could have worked because of your mindset, because of the foods you chose, and just because of your overall makeup. Does that make sense? More than likely, yeah. So, you know, muscle is your friend. It really is. And when you're on specific low-calorie diets, you lose that muscle. And it sucks because that muscle is super metabolically active. As a matter of fact, even things like, you can even do things like, if you want to burn an extra 100 calories every day, drink a couple of glasses of green tea and add hot peppers to your food. Has a thermogenic effect. There's something called epigallocatechin gallate, or ECGC. Wait a minute. Oh my God. Epigallocatechin gallate, ECGC. And what that is it's a thermogenic substance. So when you drink green tea, typically 2 or 3 glasses a day, you can actually raise your metabolic rate by 100 calories, you know, that you could burn just without changing much of anything. So pretty interesting stuff. And I don't want to short you guys tonight, but I did leave that link if you want to join Tom Palladino and me. If you have any other questions, you can email me right here. Hold on. Whoops. I hope this was helpful. Whoops, I didn't do it right. And that's an @ You can email me, sandra@biofieldview.us, and you can always ask them. You can find me on Facebook, Amplified Health Now. You can ask there. And I'll be on again next week. If you have a topic you're interested in, you can email me. Otherwise, I may surprise you. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I will see you guys next week. And thanks for being on here today. I enjoyed it.